Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta tier list post YCS Providence. Today, big dog, we are going to be talking about the absolute #1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks in the game now that we have more information from YCS Providence and the regional events alike. Also, big dog, in case you didn't know, if we were making a sleeve meta tier list, the Raven Wings are at the top. So that means that you should be going to TheCaliEffect.com to picking up your sleeves today. And also, be sure to go to the website to be able to get your merch. We got mats, we had shirts, we just too strong. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, big dogs? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, you said it. But in case you didn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. YCS Providence and the weekend alike was crazy. This particular tier list is going to allow me to go back to my best decks tier list and address some goofy things I may have said. Keep in mind, that one was more predictive. This one is more analytical. So basically, we are going to be ranking these strategies from YCS winners all the way to go fishing instead, because I couldn't think of anything you would want to do in Rhode Island based on how strong they are, the odds of them being able to win a YCS, and the potential they have in this format. Let's go ahead and get started with the elephant in the room, the deck that won a YCS Yugioh. Now, there is something that I do have to say. In the last tier list, there was a person that chewed me out for saying Mitsurugi Yugioh was what would be solid choice as opposed to the best deck. Hey man, look, I know. I was still thinking that Fiendsmith Yugioh would be the wave, and then after that, maybe even Heraldic Yugioh would be the cookage. But if we're gonna keep it so 55th Street, big dogs, we already know Yugioh, almost no matter what you do, is a YCS winner. This deck has the accolade. It has everything it needs. And even though it got all of its cards semi-limited, the new engines that you can play inside the deck keep it insane. Whether you're playing a pure build, which ironically can still top, or you're playing a Heraldic, Fiendsmith, or Mitsurugi, which the strength of those are in that order, you can be confident playing a Yugioh Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck in any event. Moving on to the next strategy, Centurion! Chat, I was on one. I thought that this strategy was going to the moon too. And I ain't gonna lie, I think that Centurion can still go to the moon. The moon of a good pilot. Centurion did secretly get support in this new set. That Snake Eyes Dragon monster shall not be underestimated. And on top of that, Centurion is also a really good strategy to play around cards like Droll, Fua, Artifact Lancia, and the Molcharmies. But I think the biggest thing about Centurion is that it does require a big brain to be able to play. You're gonna have to navigate through interruptions and find a deck list that more than likely is not common to be really successful with it. Those are my thoughts. So yeah, still a good Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck overall. Next, we're gonna go with Crystron, which just so happened to have a top 32 at the YCS. In fact, if I remember correctly, Crystron got into the top 8 bracket. Crystron is really good. The only problem is that it's weak to both Droll and Artifact Lancia, but it can make some really solid boards and is perfect at board breaking. I think that Crystron might be in the regulars as a regional topper all the way to a solid choice, and I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because at the top it's a solid choice. Crystron still has access to one of the best Omni negations in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cyber Dragon Infinity. In fact, Cyber Dragons have access to that, but they suck. Cyber Dragon players, if you want to play a legitimately competent Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck that can run Infinity, this is going to be your best bet. And whether you're playing the Kashtira engine to check your opponent's extra deck, or you're playing the Horus engine to be able to dig deeper into your combo, as well as summon some tough Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters, I think that this may be one of the best choices to pick, especially considering that it is really budget. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't feel like making the whole little thumbnail, but this Regenesis thing stands for Regenesis Kashtira. When I initially seen the deck on stream in the earlier portions, the first few rounds, I was like, what are we doing here? But then I started to read the cards. I am humbled. Regenesis reminds me of that one old school cat that play with his shorts all the way hiked up playing basketball. You guys know what I'm talking about. The guys that be having their shorts and they showing all quad. but somehow managed to drop every 3 due to crossovers, lay you up, LeBron James type nasty. I would say right now, this deck is a solid regional topper. Big dogs, I thought that Regenesis was not as great. Then I realized Regenesis Archfiend is the Searcher card, and Regenesis Sage card is a main decked Omni Negate. Ew! It even has a ridiculously strong trap card that can summon a plethora of Regenesis monsters that will send each other to the graveyard to get your negations. You pair that with Kashtira, a strategy that can also recur itself back to the side of the field like Regenesis, and you have a solid, very strong Yu-Gi-Oh deck that I think for the duration of this format will top events. It got me thinking, I might be a Regenesis player, big dogs. Maybe. Next is going to be Fire Kings, and you already know I could never put my Fire King boys any lower than the best deck. If it's my lady and Fire King Ponix hanging off the cliff and I could only save one, I'm sorry, mama. You gonna catch me on the islands cruising with my Fire King Ponix, being a top dog. Bro, what am I doing here? Fire King was really strong into the last format because it played around some of the strongest cards in the game. I don't think much changes here, and it's a very strong Yu-Gi-Oh deck with the only problem being consistency. Unfortunately, a deck that pretty much does everything that Fire King does, except is way more consistent, is Mitsurugi. And I would say that 100% Mitsurugi is that YCS topper. Mitsurugi does have Sacred of the Fire King Garunix, or Yacht, as I would say, inside of the Ame monster that can summon itself to the side of the field. Only difference is that this deck has a ton more searchability. Now, granted, it can lose to cards like Joel and Lockbird, while Fire King is a little more resilient to it. But overall, if we gotta be real, Mitsurugi has better cards. It's almost disgusting how powerful this reptile deck is. It's pretty good. Memento! This deck had a pretty good run of being one of the best decks in the room for a solid month. But unfortunately, we gotta come back down to earth. Memento is a solid choice where you thought it was going. Even with no YCS tops, Memento still did its thing over the weekend. Granted, people were more prepared for it using Molchummy Meows and DD Crow, but I still think that this is one of the solidest Yu-Gi-Oh decks of all time. The only problem is you gotta have a brain. And why have a brain when you can play Harpy's Featherstorm and Ryzeal? I think this deck will return back to form once players realize that this strategy plays around Droll, and it also plays around Lancia, so give it a little bit of time. It's definitely still a really good Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I think Mermel's worst enemy just started getting main boarded a lot more. And with that being said, I can't put Mermel above regional topper. You gotta get back there with Fire King. I'm not saying this deck auto loses to Droll, but pack your bags. And now that we've seen how impactful Droll and Lockbird will be on the format, you can almost guarantee everybody's playing 3. It's going to be a lot harder for this deck to be able to thrive, but if you can play around Droll in a multi-round tournament, you're easily topping and winning regionals. Hell, you can also top a YCS. I still think that's within this deck's horizon. Now, Tenpai Dragon, guys, y'all be sleeping on the Tenpais. I think Tenpai is a whole pie. I actually think it's a crazy good Yu-Gi-Oh deck. As pure though, I'm gonna put it in takes a really good pilot. I think Tenpai Dragon did get stronger with the new card Gordian Slicer. People are just sleeping on Gordian Slicer. Tenpai Dragon only needs 1 card to be able to OTK, but the problem with Tenpai Dragon is that I don't think it's the best version of the deck. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I got some spice I want to talk to you guys about at the end of the video. But next is going to be even more spice. You guys might not like what I say about Blue Eyes. I want you guys to look at it from this perspective. Blue Eyes is one of the only competitive Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that have consistently topped and did well last format that was not hit. In essence, it got stronger by everything else getting weaker. How does it respond at the first biggest tournament in this format? Top 32. Not even top 16, not top 8, not top 4, top 32. I think it's time that we call Blue Eyes what it is, a regional topper. Look, big dog, statistically looking at this deck, it's 100% a strategy that can top. But when it comes to consistently bringing home the bacon, do you really think that it's going to be better with Kristan that consistently tops YCSs, Memento that's crazy strong and won 2 back-to-backs in 2 different formats, or some of the other strategies I'm going to mention in the tier list above? I would say no. A deck that can get you into the door, but as far as getting you home, it will get you home, in top 32. But I don't know, guys. Let me know what you guys are thinking about that. Am I being too hard on Blue Eyes? Is Brick Eyes a lot stronger? I know you guys are going to be talking about it. And of course, if there's a strategy that you want me to talk about on the next tier list, be sure to let me know. I think the next tier list we're going to be doing is staples, but after that for strategies is going to be budget. Yugioh. Yugioh would be the craziest deck in the world if Droll and the Mole Charmy cards did not exist. I'm going to go ahead and put it in takes a really good pilot. And I'm also going to have to take back everything that I said about this deck. I was hype. I was on the goo. I thought Shavara was going to solve so many problems. But unfortunately, statistically, Yugioh is not there just yet. And I think, again, the biggest problem with Yugioh is the Mole Charmy cards. Now that everybody's playing 9 copies, getting hit with 1 and not having a solid game plan feels like a death sentence. Now, Odeon, the big O. Brothermans, I said that this was one of my favorite characters of all time, and somebody said Cap. Like, do you know who I am? Odeon is a... How can I not like Bakura, a Shizu, Merrick? Unfortunately, a Tim, and of course, Seto. I gotta represent. I love them boys. But as far as loving Odeon to win a YCS, holy no. No. I think that this deck is 100% a regional topper, big dog. I think that this deck can compete at the regional level, but when it comes to actually put it in that action, it slows up. And there's nothing really wrong with that. I actually think that regional Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot more fun than YCS Yu-Gi-Oh. You got to think about it from a family man's perspective, guys. You have to travel across the country, sometimes across the world. You don't get to see your lady because you know she ain't gonna sit at the event for 24 hours with you. You gotta go for 2 days, and if you do get that far enough, you can't see nothing in the city. Regional events, a lot of you guys are done within the first few hours. Hear me out though, hear me out. It's like me going to play 21. They'll find out I'm trash within the first 5 seconds. Same thing for regionals, guys. You don't gotta travel all the way for people to figure out that you was only gonna be there for a couple hours. So I don't mean any slight whatsoever when I talk about your deck as a regional topper. Actually, in my opinion, the more fun event. But let's move on to Unchained, which it sits in the exact same category as Yubel because it has the exact same problem. Bro, if they Mole Charmy you, sad. The only difference is that the Unchained Fiendsmith Magical Musketeer deck can play Droll. In fact, it can play around Droll perfectly, and it can play around Lancia. But losing to the Charmies is not really a takeable thing. Now, this Bestial Lubellian stands for Dragon Link. And there's been some people going around saying that there's a Regenesis Dragon Link deck. I mean, it makes sense. The Bestial monsters are 2,500 attack. Your Regenesis monsters work on that. But Dragon Link? I think the equivalent to playing Dragon Link in 2025 right now is like shooting a free throw backwards with no arms. Go fishing instead, big dog. Go catch some salmon or something. It's not that I don't have any love for Dragon Link. You guys already know one of my favorite decks. It's just I'm gonna call a spade a spade. And Dragon Link, as a deck that we once knew it with the Rocket cards, it's not going to be successful in this Yu-Gi-Oh meta. Next is Live Twins. Feeling kind of good today. Live Twins not only topped the YCS, they won a regional. And if you guys haven't checked out my deck profile on Live Twins, you probably wouldn't know that this deck is pretty dangerous. I think overall the strategy is a solid choice. It has the ability to play around some of the most popularly played cards in the game right now, and it's always a 1-card combo deck that can play a ton of board breakers or hand traps. I think it's really solid. But if we're talking about the real Gooner deck for some people, because that's inevitable, Malice is 100% that deck that is go fishing instead. You remember, big dog? I told you Malice would never be the deck. It got hit considerably less than Ryziel, and it got more/better support. And look at us now. Okay, maybe that was a little bit too harsh. It's definitely a YCS winners type deck. While I don't think that Malice could ever be the best deck in the format, I definitely think it's in the big 3. Malice March Hare is a crazy strong Yu-Gi-Oh card, and if I'm being honest, I like its card design. It being the bestial monster that Malice has always needed to be able to compete, while also allowing you to bridge yourself into some of the other cards like the Ignister cards, but at the cost of keeping its Cyberse, I think is the correct thing for Malice. Now, Sharks, on the other hand, I think the only correct thing to do is to... I'm fishing! I have never been fishing, but I am the best fisherman in this house on Roblox. I'm crazy with the fish game.
I don't know, buddy. I don't know.
Who are you? Who are you? I'm the best fisherman in the entire house.
I have a better rod than you.
Oh, get away from me.
Yeah, I always win.
You don't have a better rod because my rod got you here.
I'm not. My rod got you there.
Whatever you do, big dog, sharks probably aren't it. Snake Eyes is a deck that I gave absolutely no credit. Then I kind of overcompensated by giving it too much credit. I think it's 0 YCS tops, 0 regional tops, but I'm still holding out for it to be a pretty solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Snake Eyes did get that exact same support card, Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon, to help the strategy out just a little bit. Kinda. I think the deck is solid, not anything too spectacular, and with the right player can really do some damage. Now in the best decks tier list coming out of Alliance Insight, I also said Goaty was crazy. But then somebody said that Goaty could never be a top deck with cards like Artifact, Lancia, and Droll in the format. And I genuinely hate to say it, but he's right. I really can't see much that Goaty can do against some of the best decks in the game. I think it would get absolutely cooked. But on the bright side, I do think that the support is a step in the right direction, and the deck will eventually get there. Now this icon is standing for Fiendsmith, Bestial, and sometimes people play Primite, sometimes people supplement it for Kashtira. This deck has not gotten a lot of shine, but I still think it's a solid choice Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It has all of the makings to be able to counter some of the best decks in the game while avoiding some of the most popular cards being used right now. It's like a rogue Yu-Gi-Oh strategy without being rogue, right? White Forest I talked about on my top 5 meta deck, so you already know it's a top 5 deck. I think Hoodley, the person that's editing this video, by the way, shout out to all of my subscribers on Patreon for helping us pay our editors, will even agree. And no, Hoodley does not have a gun to my head. Hoodley, did I say it right? Take the gun off my head, right? White Forest has actually gotten to that point where most hand traps just simply don't work. Avoiding Droll is a must at all cost, but unlike Vermel, this strategy is crazy against just about everything else, worth it enough to play into the Droll. Sarcophagus was a strategy that I really gotta readdress, guys. If you haven't seen my video of me playing Yugi's deck Sarcophagus against Kaiba, which is Blue Eyes, go watch it. Look, big dog, if it make you feel better, Blue Eyes dropped some rungs, Sarcophagus dropped some rungs, everything's perfect in this world. Big dogs, we've seen Sprite on the YCS stream, and we had some pretty positives for it. Sprite was a deck that took on Blue Eyes, but not sure how you feel about that. Sprite's biggest problem is playing the round with more Charmy cards and also Droll. And then there's your opponent just summoning bigger monsters than you, because that can also be a problem without your Sprite spell card. I'm going to go ahead and put this deck into takes a really good pilot. I don't think that it's terrible. There is an argument for a version of Live Twin Sprite to be playable, and that's what I'm holding out for. Lastly is Dragon Rollers, the best Tenpai Dragon deck. Dragon Rollers has a pretty good mode of operation. It has the Dragon Roller cards to be able to force your opponent to address that particular situation. Then when all else fails, it searches a door or a Tenpai card and goes full combos for the OTK. It's perfect. The only problem with Dragon Roller is fitting your engine with non-engine. Bro, the Dragon Roller engine is like this much. So finding the correct board breaker or hand trap cards to pair alongside of it is incredibly hard. Though I am gonna say it takes a really good pilot. Big dog, I've been experimenting with the D rulers, and I think that there is a way for this strategy to be able to compete. But overall, big dog, you guys can let me know if that's copium or if any of these other strategies that I put on this tier list is copium. I think due to the analytics, this is pretty solid. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. And of course, big dog, thank you guys so much for supporting, for buying the sleeves and other merchandise on TheCaliEffect.com, subscribing to the Patreon. But even if you're not doing that, just checking out these other videos does so much to me. Thank you so much, guys.